What's up, legends, and welcome back to another Unmatched Adventures Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles First Impressions video where I give you my initial thoughts, opinions, and insights on a newly released character after only a handful of games as them. Keep that in mind as I'm giving you my thoughts on these cards, is that I do not have a ton of experience with these characters, and these are just my kind of gut reactions to how good I think they will be. This is a fun exercise to kind of come back and judge in a couple months / years after the character has established himself in the meta. And we can all point and laugh at me and say, wow, this guy thought Donatello was going to be S tier. So anyways, big shout out to Restoration Games for sending me a media copy of this set so that I could get some early plays in with it. Link to the pre-order for this set and the Muhammad Ali Bruce Lee set in the description of the video. And yeah, let's get into it. This video is about Michelangelo, the party guy. Mikey is a melee character with 14 health, a move value of 3. He is joined by April O'Neil, who is ranged and has 6 health. Both of those health blocks are, I guess, fine. We would expect a little bit more from Mikey being a melee hero. With only 14 health is not a ton, but a move value of 3 is really good. Somewhat necessary for this character. And April is also here. Not the most useful sidekick in the world. Mikey's ability is Pizza Party. After you attack or scheme, draw 1 card. Your starting and maximum hand size is 3. This is a very unique ability. The starting and maximum hand size being 3 leads to much higher variance in what your games go like. Because if you're only able to hold on to 3 cards, that means you need to do something that turn in order to not discard to overdraw. And only starting with 3 cards means that gotta go from the get-go. Like turn 1 you need to maneuver, boost and hit something, otherwise you're gonna be discarding at the end of your turn, and you kind of just got to use whatever you drew, which is good and bad. I think a lot of Mikey's cards are designed with this downside in mind, but there is the upside of after you attack or scheme, draw a card. So basically any attack you make with either of your characters will replace itself by drawing you a card. And if you scheme, it'll draw you a card. So even though you can't hold a lot of cards in your hand, you are going to be drawing a decent amount so that when you attack, you're not immediately putting yourself in a hole to be a defensive liability. This is a very interesting and unique ability. It's different than basically any other character in the game. So let's start taking a look at some of Mikey's cards so we can kind of understand it a little bit better. Michelangelo has the 2 turtle common cards, Turtle Power and Heroes in a Half Shell. Mikey's 5 block ability is very good in terms of half shell because you don't have a lot of health and you won't have a lot of cards, so whenever you're able to block, that'll be really good. And I think Mikey's big weakness is against heroes that can attack him multiple times on their turn, such as action game heroes like Bruce Lee, Yananga, Raptors, Raphael. Characters like that I think pose a bigger threat to his small hand size compared to just big hitters that are going to hit him once on their turn. I think Mikey is alright into those heroes, but it's the quantity heroes that give him problem over the quality heroes in terms of attacks. And Mikey also has Turtle Power, which lets him boost his 3 value attack during combat, which the boost matters, going down a card does matter a little bit less because you are drawing a card to replace the card you boost with / the Turtle Power card that you're attacking with. But I will say I would only try to use this as a hand correction tool. So if you start your turn with 3 cards, you maneuver in to hit someone, you have 4 cards. If you attack them, you're gonna go down to 3 after you play the attack and then draw to 4 after you attack them. So Turtle Power is actually a really good way to kind of correct your hand size by using another card. That way, when you draw from your Pizza Party ability, you're going to be at 3 instead of 4. Because you'll play this and you'll boost it, so you'll go down to 2 cards and then you'll draw after combat. So this is a really good card to use when you're going to be discarding anyways. So keep that in mind. We'll take a look at the boost values in this deck to see what this card could potentially be at later. Looking at some more Mikey attacks, we have Hiya! Or Hiya! Yeah. The art for this card is very scary. Mike looks very angry. I did not know that such a jovial creature was capable of such hatred, but here we are. It's a 4-value Mikey attack. It says, after combat, deal 1 damage to an adjacent opposing fighter. You may put a card from your hand on the bottom of your deck to gain 1 action. So solid value already. The 1 damage ping is just a really good effect. Also, does not have to be the opposing fighter. Just has to be an adjacent opposing fighter, which is really good for clearing sidekicks that are next to whoever you're attacking. And the putting a card from your hand on the bottom of your deck can be a nice hand size correction, similar to what Turtle Power was, because after you play this, you'll draw a card. And if you're going to be at 4 cards anyway, you could bottom a card to gain an action. And then if you attack again, you'll still be at 3 at the end of your turn. So super solid, and just gaining actions to attack, ideally, is what this character wants to do, since you don't run out of cards by attacking. The next Mikey attack is a 2-value red card. It says, Boisterous Beatdown. After combat, gain 1 action. If you won the combat, gain 2 instead. This is a solid kind of bait attack, because an invisible ink written on the card is, after combat, gain an action, draw a card. So it's a nice little I'm going to poke you for 2, gain an action, draw a card. So it's nothing really happened. Then there is kind of a win more if you won the combat, gain 2 actions instead, which I think is more relevant for adventures than necessarily a 1v1 competitive game. But on the off chance you run your opponent out of blocks, this is really good, because then you just keep hitting them and you don't run out of cards. So if you can kind of chain together Hiya and Boisterous Beatdown together in the same turn to just gain a bunch of actions, hit your opponent a bunch, make a bunch of attacks, and not run out of cards, it's going to be really fun. But you just got to remember that you can only end your turn with 3 cards in your hand. If you end with more, you're going to have to discard. So you can't really craft a hand the same way that some other combo fighters like Bruce Lee would be able to do. You kind of just gotta take what you get and make the best of it, which I think kind of hurts this character in terms of consistency. But the card draw from Pizza Party does kind of balance that out into a nice little improvised game that you're basically going to be playing with whatever you draw. Michelangelo's got 2 schemes. We've got Nunchaku, which is now a common card. Bruce Lee previously had this card, and it makes sense that this, just like Raphael's Sai, is now a common card in the game, because those are their signature weapons. Nunchaku is add +1 to the value of Michelangelo's attacks this turn, gain 1 action. So it does not help April hit any harder. This is also a scheme, so we're going to remember that we are going to be drawing a card after we play this, which is really good. This card would kind of be unplayable in this deck if you could only keep 3 cards in your hand and you didn't draw a card after playing this, because then you would be left with at most 2 cards that, I don't know, just it would be not super effective. So yeah, this is really good to pair with some of the other attacks we just saw, like Boisterous Beatdown and Hiya. and also makes Turtle Power a base 4 to boost from, which is cool. Michelangelo is a party dude, is probably one of the more underwhelming cards from this deck. Each friendly fighter, recovers 1 health, so it does have some adventures applications for when you have lots of friendly fighters on your team, and it does draw you a card afterwards. But I think the game plan that Mikey wants to play is more, I'm going to run at you and hit you a bunch and not run out of cards, quote unquote. And I don't really think playing this to just recover 1 health on himself and maybe April is worth the tempo loss. So a lot of times if there are like bottom deck effects like on Haya, I will just chuck this one on the bottom of my deck and be fine not having the healing. Hopefully you just win before your health really matters. Cowabunga it is. This is a versatile for Michelangelo, 3 value. It says, during combat, add +1 to this card's value for each other card you played this turn. So it does not count itself, but we have to remember that things like Nunchaku, Boisterous Beatdown, and Haya all give you actions, so you could potentially, pretty reliably, get this to a 5, 6, or 7. Nunchaku being especially potent because it counts as playing a card and also makes the attack value +1, so kind of a 2-for-1 there. Great card pairing if you can ever draw those two together. This is a pretty solid finishing move if you're attacking with it, but also if you get double attacked, you can block with something like Heroes at a Half Shell, and then if they when they attack you again, you can play this and it'll actually be +1 for a 4 because it does count on defense as well, although I think it won't really get higher than a 4 on defense if you are playing it like that. Pretty cool that you have 3 copies of it. Solid card. I don't know how consistently you can get this to be a big hitter, but it is something to work for when you have perhaps this and an action gain in your hand. We've got April O'Neil's cards. She is a hard-hitting investigator with a hard-hitting investigation, which doesn't hit that hard because it is a 0 value attack. And it says, after combat, deal 1 damage to the opposing fighter, gain 1 action. Written in invisible ink on that card, it says draw 1 card because of your ability, in which case it is not the end of the world, kind of just like a big old bait attack for your opponent that is going to replace itself in your hand, gain you an action, and deal 1 damage. I think we're gonna pay really close attention to the other cards that April can attack with, because if they are not good, why would your opponent ever block April if she was attacking? She is ranged, which means you can use that card without putting yourself in immediate danger against melee fighters. So yeah, not the worst card in the world, just a little underwhelming in my opinion. Like it probably could have been like a 1 value attack, you know. April's scheme is shell insertion. Choose 2 different effects. 1, each opponent discards 1 card. 2, move a friendly fighter up to 2 spaces. 3, put a card from your hand on the bottom of your deck to gain 1 action. Or 4, shuffle 2 random cards from your discard pile back into your deck. I think there are various reasons to pick the first 2. In a competitive 1v1 game, I think those would matter a little bit more. But I really like effect 3 and 4. Putting a card from your hand on the bottom of your deck to gain an action works with things like Cowabunga and just like cycling Michelangelo as a party dude out of your hand so that you can like actually do something useful on your turn. And you have to remember that this is a scheme, so after you play it, you will draw a card. So it will replace itself, and so if you're basically going down a card to gain an action, draw a card. In addition to doing another effect, which typically for me is shuffling 2 random cards from your discard pile back into your deck, which is recursion, albeit like unideal because you can't choose what you're getting back. But for this character, anytime you could potentially get some of those pretty good cards like Haya or maybe even Boisterous Beatdown or Cowabunga, just anything that like helps you stay aggressive is pretty good. So I believe you have to do the effects in the order that they are on the card. So putting a card from your hand on the bottom of your deck to gain an action, and then shuffling 2 random cards from your discard pile back into your deck would mean you put a card on the bottom of your deck and then shuffle. So it won't stay on the bottom for long, is I believe how this card interacts. Also, both of these April cards have boost values of 3 for turtle power, which I think is more than fair, because they will probably end up doing more damage as boost fodder than by themselves. And lastly, we have the arsenal of Ennies for this deck. These are cards that Mikey and April can use. We have Back for Seconds, which was revealed by my Cancer Gang, #astrology, buddy Kike, aka the Maneuver Man. He's really bad at the Club Penguin Pizza game, but that was probably like the best video I ever saw. Back for Seconds is a 2-value defense only. Says after combat, shuffle 2 random cards from your discard pile back into your deck. So another like recursion effect that isn't amazing, but you are getting 2 cards back. So ideally they're like attacks or versatiles. I wouldn't necessarily want to shuffle another Back for Seconds back in, although you could, I guess, go somewhat infinite if your random recursion pulls are just back for seconds, I guess. Just because like the blue card in this deck, like Back for Seconds and Heroes in a Half Shell, it just feels really bad when you're like in this middle of like an attack chain, and then you're like relying on whatever you top deck to like attack again, and it's just a blue card that you can't attack with, and you're just like, I can't cycle this, like I can't do anything with it. So yeah, it's not terrible, it's just not a great value block. You only have 2 copies, so it's like fine, I guess. I don't really necessarily know how long Mikey could go in a game just without ending up kind of screwed based on whatever's in his hand or something like that. Mikey also has Let's Go, which is a 3-value versatile. After combat, move a friendly fighter up to 3 spaces. This is a great way to set up a turn where you can attack multiple times. I think this is a pretty good like April block, where April blocks with this and then you move Mikey 3 spaces. That way you can just immediately start attacking on your turn. And lastly, we have Guaranteed Delivery, 3-value versatile Ennie. It says, immediately! You may put a card from your hand on the bottom of your deck to cancel all effects on your opponent's card. After combat, if your hand is empty, draw 2 cards. This is a super great block to throw out when you have 2 cards in your hand, because then you just bottom the other one that you're holding, and then you get 2 cards after that. It's also not terrible as an attack, because if you attack, and this is the second card in your hand, you just bottom the other one, you draw 2 because your hand is empty, and then you draw another one after attacking. So this is a great way to like net a card and not completely gas out after attacking. It just is really bad if this gets canceled if you throw it out as an attack. So that's why I think it's like a lot more reliable to save for defense, so that way you can get that card draw. And yeah, Guaranteed Delivery, super important to get off, which is why I think based on the matchup that you're in, might want to save it to just defense if you know your opponent has cancels galore for you. So yeah, overall, looking at this character, it's very different than any other character in the game. Only being able to hold 3 cards means you can't like dirtle around, but you really have to just go with whatever you're given. Sometimes it's really good because you get like Nunchaku, Cowabunga, Hiya, Boisterous Beatdown, all these like good attacks that you can chain together and have a really fun turn. And then sometimes you just draw like Back for Seconds, the April scheme, and Heroes in a Half Shell, and you just like can't really like do anything. But at least the schemes cycle themselves if you play them, so that way you can get to your better cards a bit faster. I think this style of play might not be the best in competitive, but is really, really fun, I will say. I think Mikey can steal some games, probably more than he gets screwed over in some games. But I think he's just going to be kind of mid-tier with, I think, a skilled pilot being able to actually take him pretty far. Curious to see how he does into characters with discards, like Medusa, Sherlock, although like those really aren't the best examples because those are like S-tier fighters anyways. So more like mid-tier fighters with some discards, maybe like Tomoe. Tomoe probably just dumpsters him. So anyways, I'm really probably the most curious about this character of the 4 turtles because I can't really put my finger on how good he's going to be. If you told me he was like a 7 out of 10, I'd probably believe it. Wouldn't believe anything higher. If you told me he was a 2 out of 10, I'd be like, yeah, I guess I could see that. It's probably just somewhere in the middle. Probably still better than Leonardo though. Like at least he does something interesting and it like changes the game from like a pretty substantial standpoint that makes it worth investing time into him, seeing if like he's gonna have that like X factor I guess. I really also like the art. This and I guess I just really like all the Turtles art except for Leonardo. I just don't like Leonardo. I'm a Leonardo hater. I'll admit it. There's something charming about this art. The Thunder Road art like really works for Donnie, and Raph's art is just like, oh, chef's kiss. So yeah, Mikey, I have the least firm expectations of him, but like I said, he's going to be fun. So let me know what you think of this character in the comments. Go pre-order this set if you haven't. Link in the description. Hydrate, homies! Ooh, take care of yourselves. Let's go. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, like, subscribe, and yay!